Have you ever wondered why salespeople earn extra money whenever they sell something? Why the amount you pay at the cashier is sometimes higher than the price tag? Or why banks ask you to pay back more money than what you borrowed? Believe it or not, all of these involve one mathematical concept: percentages. And if percentage word problems confuse you, don't worry, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to solve them step by step. Hello everyone, welcome back to Lowkey Math. If you're new here, this channel is all about making math simple, easy to understand, and low-key, not as scary as it seems. In our previous lesson, we talked about basic percentage problems, including percentage increase and percentage decrease. Today, we're taking it one step further. We'll learn how percentages are used in real-life situations through word problems involving commission, sales tax, markup, discount, and simple interest. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize everything. I'll show you an easy way to identify each type of problem so you'll know exactly what to do. So without further ado, let's begin. Before we start, here's one low-key tip. Most students make one common mistake. Whenever they see a word problem, they immediately ask, what formula should I use? Instead, ask yourself this question first. What is happening in the problem? Is someone selling a product? Is money being added? Is the price reduced? Or is money earning interest? Once you identify the situation, choosing the correct formula becomes much easier. Now let's start with our first application. Imagine this. You just got hired as a salesperson in a cell phone store. Your boss tells you, for every cell phone you successfully sell, I'll give you 5% of its selling price. Now here's my question. If you don't sell anything today, will you receive that extra money? Of course not. You'll only receive it if you successfully sell a product. That extra money is called commission. What is commission? Commission is the amount of money earned by a salesperson for every successful sale. Think of it as a reward for selling. The more products you sell, the more commission you can earn. That's why many companies use commission to motivate their salespeople. The better they perform, the more they earn. Before solving any commission problem, let's first identify the three important parts. The first one is the selling price. This refers to the price of the item being sold. The second is the commission rate. This tells us what percentage of the selling price the salesperson will receive. Finally, we have the commission, which is the actual amount of money earned. If we know the selling price and the commission rate, we can easily find the commission. Commission equals selling price times commission rate. Before moving on, let's understand why this formula works. Remember our previous lesson? Whenever we're looking for a percentage of a number, we multiply. Since commission is simply a percentage of the selling price, we multiply the selling price by the commission rate. But before multiplying, there's one very important reminder. Always convert the percentage into a decimal first. For example, 6% becomes 0.06. Never skip this step because forgetting to convert the percentage is one of the most common mistakes students make. Let's solve one example together. A salesperson sold a laptop worth 40,000 pesos. If the commission rate is 6%, how much commission did the salesperson earn? Instead of rushing into the computation, let's solve it step by step. The first thing I always do is identify the given information. From the problem, we know that the selling price is 40,000 pesos and the commission rate is 6%. Next, let's identify what the problem is asking. We're asked to find the commission. Since we're looking for the commission, we'll use the commission formula. Commission equals selling price times commission rate. Now let's substitute the values. Commission equals 40,000 times 6%. But wait, can we multiply immediately? Not yet. Remember, the percentage should first be converted into a decimal. So 6% becomes 0.06. Now we can continue. Commission equals 40,000 times 0.06. Take your time when multiplying. 40,000 multiplied by 0.06 equals 2,400. Therefore, the salesperson earned 2,400 pesos as commission. Whenever you encounter words such as salesperson, sales agent, broker, commission earns from selling, immediately think, I'm looking for a percentage of the selling price. That simple habit will help you recognize commission problems much faster. Now let's move on to our second application of percentages. Earlier, we learned about commission, where a salesperson earns extra money after making a sale. This time, let's look at the opposite situation. Instead of receiving extra money, you're the one paying extra. Have you ever experienced buying something, looking at the price tag and thinking, great, I have enough money. But when you reach the cashier, the total amount suddenly becomes higher than the price you expected. Why does that happen? That's because of sales tax. Sales tax is an additional amount of money added to the original price of an item. In simple words, it's an extra amount that customers pay when purchasing goods or services. Think of it this way. The price tag tells you the original price. The sales tax is the extra amount added to that price. So the amount you actually pay is higher than the original price. Whenever you're solving a sales tax problem, identify these three important parts. First, the original price. This is the price before the tax is added. Second, the sales tax rate. This tells us what percentage of the original price will be added. Lastly, the sales tax, which is the additional amount. Sometimes the problem may also ask for the total amount paid. This is simply the original price plus the sales tax. Let's write the formulas. Sales tax equals original price times sales tax rate. If the problem asks for the total amount paid, use this formula. Total amount paid equals original price plus sales tax. Now let's understand why. Remember our previous lesson. Whenever we're finding a percentage of a number, we multiply. Since sales tax is a percentage of the original price, we multiply the original price by the sales tax rate. Then because the tax is added to the price, we add the sales tax to the original price. A simple way to remember this is, tax means add. Let's solve one together. A laptop costs 25,000 pesos. The sales tax is 12%. Find the sales tax and the total amount paid. As always, let's not compute immediately. First, identify the given. The original price is 25,000 pesos. The sales tax rate is 12%. Now let's identify what we're looking for. The problem asks us to find two things. First, the sales tax. Second, the total amount paid. Since we're looking for the sales tax first, let's use the formula. Sales tax equals original price times sales tax rate. Now substitute the values. Sales tax equals 25,000 times 12%. Can we multiply immediately? Not yet. Remember, we should first convert the percentage into a decimal. 12% becomes 0.12. Now let's multiply. 25,000 times 0.12 equals 3,000. Therefore, the sales tax is 3,000 pesos. But are we done? Not yet. The problem also asked for the total amount paid. To find that, we simply add the sales tax to the original price. 25,000 plus 3,000 equals 28,000. Therefore, the customer pays 28,000 pesos in total. Notice something. The total amount paid is greater than the original price. Does that make sense? Yes. Whenever you see the words sales tax, VAT, tax, additional tax, or plus tax, immediately think add, because tax increases the amount you pay. Some students stop after getting 3,000 pesos. Remember, that is only the sales tax. If the problem asks for the total amount paid, don't forget to add it to the original price. Now that we've learned how sales tax increases the price of an item, let's move on to another application where the price also increases. But this time, the increase isn't because of taxes. Instead, it's because businesses want to earn a profit. Let's talk about markup. Before we continue, you might be thinking, wait, haven't we already discussed markup? And the answer is yes. In our previous lesson on percentage increase and percentage decrease, we learned what markup is and how to compute it. Our focus then was understanding how prices increase by a certain percentage. This time, we're taking it one step further. Instead of solving direct percentage questions, we'll apply markup to word problems. So if you've watched the previous lesson, think of this as putting what you've learned into practice. And if you haven't, don't worry. Let's have a quick review. Markup is the amount added to the original cost of an item to determine its selling price. Businesses use markup because they need to earn a profit. Without markup, they wouldn't earn money from selling their products. A simple way to remember it is this. Markup means the price goes up. Every markup problem has four important parts: the cost, which is the amount paid by the business to buy the product, the markup rate, which tells us what percentage will be added, the markup, which is the amount added, and finally, the marked up price or selling price, which is the final price customers pay. Let's write the formulas. Markup equals cost times markup rate. Then, marked up price equals cost plus markup. Notice that finding the marked up price is a two-step process. First, find the markup. Then, add it to the original cost. Later, I'll also show you a shortcut formula. A store bought a backpack for 800 pesos. It applies a 25% markup. Find the marked up price. First, identify the given. The cost is 800 pesos. The markup rate is 25%. The problem asks for the marked up price. Can we immediately add 25% to 800 pesos? Not yet. We first need to determine how much the markup is. So let's use the first formula. Markup equals cost times markup rate. Substitute the values. Markup equals 800 times 25%. Convert the percentage. 25% becomes 0.25. Now multiply. 800 times 0.25 equals 200. So the markup is 200 pesos. But remember, the problem asks for the marked up price, not just the markup. So we proceed to the second formula. Marked up price equals cost plus markup. Substitute the values. 800 pesos plus 200 pesos equals 1,000 pesos. Therefore, the marked up price is 1,000 pesos. Don't confuse markup with marked up price. Markup answers the question, how much was added? Marked up price answers, what is the final selling price? Always read what the problem is asking before giving your final answer. Once you're comfortable with the two-step method, here's a shortcut. Using this formula, marked up price or selling price equals cost times 1 plus markup rate. Let's substitute the given values from the example problem. 800 times 1 plus 0.25 equals 800 times 1.25 equals 1,000 pesos. The answer is the same. However, I recommend mastering the two-step process first before using the shortcut. Markup makes the price go up. Now let's look at its opposite. Instead of increasing the price, what if the store wants to encourage more customers to buy? One way they do that is by offering a discount. Just like markup, discount was already discussed in our previous lesson on percentage increase and percentage decrease. There we learned that discount decreases the original price by a certain percentage. Today we'll apply that concept to solving word problems. A discount is the amount deducted from the original price of an item. Stores often offer discounts during special sales, holidays, or clearance events to attract more customers. So remember, discount means the price goes down. Let's write this formulas. Discount equals original price times. Discount rate selling price equals original price minus discount. Let's solve this problem. A jacket originally cost 2,500 pesos. It is sold at 20% off. Find the selling price. Let's identify the given. The original price is 2,500 pesos. The discount rate is 20%. The problem asks for the selling price. First, find the discount. Discount equals 2,500 times 20%. Convert the percentage. 20% becomes 0.20. Now multiply. 2,500 times 0.20 equals 500. So the discount is 500 pesos. Now subtract it from the original price. Selling price equals 2,500 minus 500 equals 2,000 pesos. Therefore, the customer only pays 2,000 pesos. Whenever you see sale, 20% off, discount, or less, immediately think subtract. So far, we've learned 4 applications of percentages. We've learned how salespeople earn commission. We've learned why customers pay sales tax. We've learned how businesses use markup to earn profit. And we've also learned how discounts reduce the price of products. Now let's move on to our final application of percentages. This one is probably the most common in banks, loans, and even savings accounts. It's called simple interest. Imagine that your laptop suddenly stops working and you need a new one for school. Unfortunately, you don't have enough money to buy it. So you decide to borrow 20,000 pesos from a bank. Now let me ask you this. Do you think the bank will only ask you to return 20,000 pesos? Of course not. Since the bank allowed you to borrow its money, it charges an additional amount. That additional amount is called interest. The longer you borrow the money, the more interest you usually have to pay. That's why understanding simple interest is important, especially when making financial decisions in the future. Simple interest is the additional amount of money paid by a borrower or earned by an investor based on the original amount of money. Let's simplify that definition. If you borrow money, interest is the extra amount you pay. If you invest money, interest is the extra amount you earn. So whether you're borrowing or investing, interest simply means extra money. Before solving any simple interest problem, let's first identify its four important parts. The first is the principal. The principal is the original amount of money borrowed or invested. Think of it as the starting amount. Second is the rate. The rate tells us what percentage of the principal is charged or earned every year. Third is the time. This tells us how long the money is borrowed or invested. Usually time is expressed in years, unless the problem states otherwise. Finally, we have the interest. This is the additional money earned or paid. Whenever you solve a simple interest problem, always look for these four pieces of information first. Now let's write the formula. Simple interest equals principal times rate times time, or in symbols, I equals P times R times T, where I stands for interest, P stands for principal, R stands for rate, and T stands for time. Before solving, let's understand why this formula works. The principal tells us the original amount of money. The rate tells us what percentage is charged every year. And the time tells us how many years the money has been borrowed or invested. By multiplying these three values together, we can determine the total interest. But remember one important reminder. Just like in our previous topics, always convert the percentage into a decimal before multiplying. Let's solve one example together. Maria borrowed 20,000 pesos from a bank at 5% simple interest for 3 years. How much interest will she pay? Just like before, let's not compute immediately. First, identify the given information. The principal is 20,000 pesos. The rate is 5%. The time is 3 years. Now let's identify what the problem is asking. We're looking for the interest. Since we're finding the interest, let's use the simple interest formula. I equals P times R times T. Now substitute the values. I equals 20,000 times 5% times 3. Can we multiply immediately? Not yet. Remember, the percentage should first be converted into a decimal. So 5% becomes 0.05. Now let's continue. I equals 20,000 times 0.05 times 3. Let's multiply step by step. First, 20,000 multiplied by 0.05 equals 1,000. Now multiply that result by 3. 1,000 times 3 equals 3,000 pesos. Therefore, Maria will pay 3,000 pesos as simple interest. Sometimes the problem doesn't only ask for the interest. It may ask for the total amount that must be paid. To find the total amount, simply add the interest to the principal. Total amount equals principal plus interest, substitute the values. 20,000 plus 3,000 equals 23,000 pesos. Therefore, Maria will pay a total of 23,000 pesos after 3 years. Does our answer make sense? Yes. Since interest is an additional amount, the total payment should always be greater than the amount originally borrowed. This quick check helps us determine whether our answer is reasonable. Whenever you encounter the words principal, rate, time, loan, borrow, invest, and interest, immediately think of the formula I equals P times R times T. This will help you recognize simple interest problems more quickly. Before we end, let's review all 5 percentage applications. Commission, money earned from selling, sales tax, extra amount added to the price, markup, price increases, discount, price decreases, simple interest, extra money earned or paid over time. Here's the most important thing I want you to remember. Don't memorize formulas first. Instead, identify the situation. Ask yourself, is someone selling? Commission, is money being added? Sales tax or markup, is the price being reduced? Discount, is money growing over time? Simple interest. Once you know the situation, choosing the formula becomes much easier. If this tutorial helped you understand percentage word problems, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Lowkey Math, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next lesson. And remember, math isn't hard. It's only hard until someone explains it the Lowkey way. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.